He might not be from Krypton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Fandom Zone. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in all of YouTube entertainment today, Mr. Zod. And today I have some fine guests on with me who I will be bringing out. They are awesome, and I'm going to chat with them about their channel, what they do, all of that good stuff. So I can't wait to get started. It is going to be an interview. I haven't done one of these in forever because, you know, reasons. I've been busy putting together a bunch of other things and videos and whatnot. So why don't I bring these lovely people out and we'll get started. Hello and welcome, everybody. Would you like to introduce yourselves to this fine audience?
I'm Keith. That's Gary, and we are Pop Culture Minefield.
Oh, Lord.
Gary, everybody. Gary.
So today we are going to be talking with these fine gentlemen. As I do here in the Fandom Talks, I'm going to talk with them about their channel and the stuff that they do and all of that kind of stuff. We're going to dive deep into everything they cover, how they got started and all of that. But first, I would like to ask you guys, how you feeling today? How's everything going? It's freaking 80 and humid here.
It's the same here. We're just north of you in Missouri, and it's warm and muggy. We're not, we're staying at our mother-in-law's right now, in the midst of a move. So we sold the house, and there's no AC here. It's just, how I'm staying cool is we have a fan in the window blowing into this room. And it's just slightly cooler. Keith, how are you doing?
All right. Just hanging out and enjoying the fact that the house is quiet. No kids at home. The wife will be home. Well, she should probably be home soon. And just taking my time when I'm not freaking out reading the news about all the latest development in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and there's stuff coming down that I don't know if we're allowed to really talk about it live, but I can tell you that the rumors you're hearing about Marvel, Disney wanting to buy DC Comics, it's fucking real. It's not a joke. And It's not a made-up thing. This is not one of those we got you covered kind of stories. Where those guys just like throw darts at Post-it notes of ideas for headlines. This is a real thing. And I don't know. I think Keith feels the same way I do. I'm not sure, but I'm terrified of it. I am not happy about it.
Yeah, if you are a fan, you should be scared for both companies. Because if this ends up becoming true, say goodbye to any B, C, D, or lower characters from both Marvel and DC. You're never going to see them again. It's just gonna be all Captain America, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman from here on out. It's nothing but that stuff.
I was going to say, speaking of which, because we were talking about this before we went on air, you guys seem to know a lot about the business and seem to get a lot of information. what is it you guys do, and how do you come across this this various information?
A lot of it for us comes from various. First of all, we've been lucky enough to become friends with people that are actually experts in the business. Okay, some of whom come from being reporters, some who actually work in the business, writers, filmmakers, directors, some producers. When you get a chance to get your foot into that door and you're able to talk to people, you learn a lot. And speaking for myself, I have learned so much this last year and a half about how things actually work. And let's just say whatever I thought I knew before doesn't matter now. I see the business in a much different way. And I can definitely say, if I were to tell anyone, if you really want to understand how the business actually works, I got two things for you. Okay. First, a saying from Robert Meyer Burnett, which is, it's not show friends, it's show business. Okay. Get it on paper. Don't ever take anyone's word for it. Second thing, it's Game of Thrones. That's really what the business. No, I'm serious. It is Game of Thrones.
True.
It is really is.
It's
Game
the
of Thrones.
Red Wedding all over again.
Yeah, well, basically, Warner Brothers, that news with AT&T and the whole merging, that's the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And what we thought originally was going to happen with Disney was going to be more like the Red Wedding. Oh my goodness. This is the Red Wedding plus somebody deciding, you know what, here's some gasoline, here are a few matches, gives it to a 5-year-old and it's like, knock yourself out. That's basically what they're doing. It is.
And Mikey described it as Camp Crystal Lake on the final night. Shit's going down. It's just gonna die. They're dying.
There's lots of people that's gonna have to dust off their resumes real soon.
That's interesting. So you guys have built up these contexts, and I find that fascinating because here on my channel, I cover various entertainment, things like that. I also cover the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation because I find it part of the woke culture. I've argued it's circular. The reason for stars being canceled has to do with, I believe strongly, two things. One, they don't want to pay these actors, these legends. They're tired of paying them. They need excuses. And two, these actors won't get in line with the program, so they try to find things to get rid of them. And I find the Johnny Depp case particularly interesting because it's, to me, the failed Me Too. It's finally shown that a female on the end of that could lie, which we hadn't seen up until this point. But with all of the evidence and stuff gathering, it's definitely clear she's not telling the truth, which that kind of negates this argument we've had. And this bleeds into kind of your guys' realms with entertainment, right? Hashtag believe women, Me Too. All of these roles that are becoming female centric because they want to push this fake female empowerment, like it hasn't existed in Aliens or Terminator or any other films that were made since the 80s. They make it sound like it's been this androgynous, male-dominated, industry. And it really hasn't. There been terrible things? Yes. Any field has had terrible things. There's been terrible instances. We've seen that with Weinstein and all of them. But the way they're perpetuating it now seems to be just a ploy to kind of placate to this market that doesn't exist or make them money. And it really baffles my mind. And that's why I like having you guys on, because you guys seem to have sources in that world. So from your guys' perspective, you ever come across things where they're like, yeah, this woke stuff isn't working, it's nonsense? Or is this actually a thing? Or do they actually have this fake market we can't see? Are they actually making money off of this stuff?
No, they are not making money off of it.
Yeah. Look, if there is a spokesperson, if there is a face for how badly this has gone business-wise, it's Kathleen Kennedy, unfortunately. She's someone that, prior to leading Lucasfilm, is probably the most successful producer currently still working in Hollywood. Because she's gone off the rails, she has cost Disney a lot of money, showing that she, while being someone that has had a lot of experience, isn't really someone that should be working the type of job, or at least in the way that she's doing it. She's not good at the job that she's meant to be doing at this point. If you have nothing but an agenda, and if that's all you're running it on, you are going to miss so many things and make so many mistakes. And she's made a lot of them. Number one being, for someone that wants to push having more women being involved. I've said it before, say it again. It's as simple as look at all of the Star Wars movies done for Disney since they bought it. Do you see a man's name for any of these major films? You do. It's nothing but men.
Yeah.
You don't see a woman, not one woman.
Yeah, it's exactly the opposite. It's exactly the opposite of what she preaches.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, she should be able to find one female director that could have directed any of the movies that she's had.
Catherine Bigelow.
And I'm not just talking about the main Star Wars films. You look at Solo. You look at Rogue One. You can't tell me you can't find one woman to have headlined, to direct any of those movies. Because that's, 5 films?
Again, Catherine fucking Bigelow. No meetings.
Patty Jenkins. And Patty Jenkins. She is now scheduled to be the first woman to actually direct a movie, because she's doing the Rogue Squadron film for them. But that's like after how many years and how many films?
Yeah. Failure after failure. I think nobody has fired more directors while in that job, a job like that for companies, than Kathleen Kennedy. She personally fucking hires people, then personally fucking fires them, or have someone else fire them, like with Miller and I just forgot his name. She fired them through the writer producer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, and again, you can't. All of those decisions have financial consequences. Every time she's had to fire someone, that's cost them money. Every time they've had to
they doubled the budget. They doubled the budget on Star Wars story Solo movie. Yeah, doubled the budget.
And just before we continue, really quick, Planet Q Squeed, you had a great. She had a great comment to that. They don't want to practice what they preach. I 100% agree. Before we continue, I want to say hi to fine folks, because I normally do. Our comments don't count. Geekicidal tendencies. What's up? Sean B, good to see you. Aaron, we have Planet Q's Queen. Kristen, Rebecca, how are you? Fat Steven Seagal, hey. It said a $2 super chat says Gary likes to draw. They say
I draw
once used a pencil.
Thanks, Steven. Good, you're a good friend, man. Appreciate it.
But
good
what I wanted to add to this was, like, yes, I find it. And look, I've said on my channel, and I've made this a point, I haven't watched any Disney films since the whole Gina Carano thing. Not just because of that, but it's a lot of little things that added up to that. And that was just kind of the final straw for me. But I will be watching Cruella because the people here on my channel like to see me in misery. And I said if I got to 113 views on my review of Spiral, I would go and see it. So, well, it was 100. They got it to 113. So you guys are all lovely. Thank you for that. And now I'll be going to see Cruella. What the wife said she's happy.
Cruella
to see it with me. So we made a deal, and I'm going to drag her to A Quiet Place too, and she's going to see that with me. So it's a fair trade. She was terrified of the first one, so I can't wait. But no, with that whole thing, I do find the irony of this, and this goes a lot with what I talk about because I also deal a lot with the box office, with the numbers there. Me and Odin's movie blog a while ago did a talk, and he really taught me about the numbers and things. And it's fascinating because when you track this, everybody thinks that the virus that shall not be named was the cause for seeing the box office the way it was. But no one realizes, and I worked at a movie theater, it was always failing. The box office was slowly dying. This just sped up the process. This accelerated what was already happening. Why do you think every movie is placating to China's market? It's because the box office was always on a slow decline. And I was wondering what you guys know. Would that be an accurate statement?
Well, this is, we got to kind of go back because you asked like how we got started. And I'm going to explain how this whole thing got started. And it'll kind of give you an idea of what I deal with Keith. Keith, I always refer to Keith as that guy that goes, hey, check out what's in my walk-in closet. You walk in there and like there's this giant whiteboard with cork parts to it with red pins and yarn strung all over the photos of people all connected. And that he runs, it's like a murder board, but for Hollywood. And when I saw how his brain worked and how he connects shit, I'm like, well, between you and my sarcasm, we would have a really interesting show. Because I had tried for a year to try to do something, but I got to be honest, on my own, I'm not interested. I get bored. I have a career as an artist. I work in film, publishing, comics, and it's a nice career. And getting online with something I'm like by myself, I'm like, this is just a boring idea. But then mix it in with my buddy who I met because of my career. I met him because I do comic books. And so I was a guest of honor at the convention he worked at. And we became instant friends. And I joke about it, that I tell people, well, when I met Keith, I had no black friends and I needed one badly. And he filled the quota. I could check that box off for my friendship. But no, he's just this guy, man, that fucking I'm like, I started like talking to him, and when he walked away, I was like sad. I was like, oh, I want to talk to him some more. And so whenever I ran into him, I'm like, hey, buddy, be my friend, hang out with me. I want to talk nerd shit with you. And this went on for a while till eventually we really started doing that. And he would call the house, and we'd have like a 4-hour conversation about all this shit going on. And I started thinking, these should be shows. And then we did a panel at Geekmas, a one-day convention in Springfield, Missouri by a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours. We're going to be attending again this year. Hawk Hallman, we're going to get him on our show, in fact. I want to get him on there. And Hawk had tried to do a show with Keith, but the chemistry wasn't where it needed to be for Keith to want to stay. Whereas I'm a fucking idiot. And Keith likes hanging out with me. And we have this amazing chemistry. So we did this panel together that was supposed to be 1 hour. And everybody that was scheduled to do a panel after us acquiesced and says, no, you guys keep talking because this is far more entertaining than what we're wanting to talk about.
We understand that because if you see me and Pop Culture PB, if you watch our late night talks, we have that same chemistry. It's like the yin and yang. You got to have that back and forth. The person who you bounce off with, it just creates fun for everyone watching. They get to interact. And I wanted to say thank you, Thomas Gilkey, for the $4.99 super chat.
Yeah, Thomas, you're a sweetheart, man. Keith and I love you.
He said, "Hail to the panel. Long time no see, Zod. Hope you are well. I might be the only one excited for the Eternals, but okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, Thomas is a sweet guy. I mean, everybody knows I was a jackass. I woke up one morning literally on the wrong side of the bed. And I said something publicly that I would normally not say. And I was angry. I was really fucking angry. And it was over Jeremy because I like Jeremy. He's one of the first people I talked to before doing what we do. And he's very forthcoming, very friendly guy with me, and helped inspire doing what we do. And so I was a jackass, and I immediately was like, I shouldn't have said that. You know, one of those, why did I say that? Why did I? Oh my God. And people think, you are always a jackass. Yes, it's different than what I did that day. That day, I absolutely opened my fucking mouth and shit in public. And Gilkey was one of the nice guys. He says, you know, I'm imagining what his voice sounds like. So please don't be offended. I picture you sounding like my friend Gary Willoughby from the Blade Runner fan club, bladezone.com. And Gary talks like this. And I just picture, is that really what you want to say? Is that what you want to be known as, the person that said that fucked up shit? And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't want to be remembered as that fucking asshole. And I had these people trying to cancel me. I was getting these problems. Is this you? And I'm like, yeah, it's me. Now go choke on a bag of dicks. Like, I give a fuck what you're going to do. Oh, you're going to dox me? Everybody fucking knows who I am and where I live. Fuck you. People don't come around me because they know I'm dangerous. I'm a dangerous nerd. That's how this whole thing got started. This whole thing got started because of Dangerous Nerd. I created this fan club for guys that are military guys that we can disassemble and reassemble an M16 blindfolded in under a minute. And we can also talk about World of Warcraft, Star Wars, Star Trek. Doesn't matter what the fuck it is. That's a Dangerous Nerd. And I'm armed. I'm dangerous. So, yeah, good luck with that fucking wanting to fuck with me shit. It's a good way to get killed. And
oh my goodness, there goes my wholesome PG-13 rating I was going for. I was trying to keep this a family show for the kids.
Are you kidding me?
Please, talking about...
Don't invite me to things like that. Nobody invited me to kids' birthdays for a reason. Because I'm eventually going to talk about rabbit anus. It's going to happen.
That's okay. That's all right. We started hashtag Pineanal on this channel, so welcome to the Fandom Zone. This is great because I know I served in the service too. I was in the Navy. I know all the jokes.
Well, thank you for your service.
So, yeah. So,
well, my dad was a Navy man, so
yeah,
I
and
got a lot of respect.
Both of us were raised in military things, but Dangerous Nerds is what led to Pop Culture Minefield. I didn't want to call it Dangerous Nerds because Keith, although a military child, was not in the service, and he has two boys that served. And it's so important to support the military, but I felt it was inappropriate to call our show Dangerous Nerds because it was specifically focused on military vets that are nerds. So I put an ad up on my Facebook page, and we had hundreds of people throwing names at us. And then Graham Nolan, co-creator of Bane, popped on my page and said, Pop Culture Minefield, that's the name of your show. And I went, oh my God. And I got goosebumps. And then I said, Keith, and Keith was like, fuck yeah, that's our name. And so that became our name, thanks to Graham Nolan. And
also, hi, Tiffany. I know you guys had been having problems. I'm sorry. I was messing around with the limitations on my channel, and they disabled the comments for a while, so I had to go back through. So if you guys were having problems, I'm sorry. When you play around,
Zod's an idiot. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, I'm a villain. You know.
You're like one of those B or C villains.
Hey, that's true.
Just remember,
you know
Riddler,
what? I'm the best of the B or C tier villains.
The Riddler was a C villain. The Riddler was a C villain that became an A villain thanks to Adam West's Batman. They made him one of the single most popular villains in the Rogues Gallery, just on that series.
Mhm.
Before that, nobody knew who the hell the Riddler was. He was just a little. He was used a few times and just kind of like put aside.
Frank Gorshin was the man.
Oh my God, he sold that show. And when he left, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of John Astin's, but he was not Frank Gorshin, and they needed him back.
And in case you guys weren't wondering, we will be talking nerdy stuff throughout this. I've been dying to do a stream like this, so I do apologize in advance. It will get real nerdy here, but I think this is important. And why I think it's important is because, like you guys, a lot of people seem to think that when we get on here and we talk about what's bothering us with the entertainment, it's exclusive to people who are sitting in their basement and they're cave dwellers or they're trolls. How many times have we heard that, right? This is not a fucking basement, all you weirdos. On my couch, just so you know. And, you know, we get this hateful stuff from the industry, and a lot of us work. We have professions, we have families, and we just care about the things we love. And people in my chat, they are the same way. They care about stuff. And I've been lucky to be in this community following this Johnny Depp thing because they share a lot of what we share about this. And why I found the case as important is because this is somebody who's in my franchise. I'm a DC fanboy. This is somebody who's in my franchise and is quite possibly the worst individual I have ever heard of in my whole entire life. I'll just say it. Amber Heard is a terrible, terrible person. And these are the decisions ultimately to hire these people that's destroying what we love. They hire these people who don't care about the characters and they don't care about the image that they're putting forward. And it's ruining what these stories are supposed to be and what they mean to us. So I'm glad to have you guys on because, you know, I like to show that there's a wide range of people who feel the same way that I am, that I do, that come from different walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You know what, for Gary and myself, I mean, it's just been eye-opening to see how even certain people that should know better end up coming off as complete and utter phonies.
Yeah, and it's because there's no such thing as common sense. People act like it's a real thing. It's not. People are just fucking idiots and do some fucking stupid to real shitty things.
Yeah. I will admit I have had a lot of things to say about, say, as an example, I've had a lot of things to say about Kathleen Kennedy. I don't hate Kathleen Kennedy.
What?
I think, yeah, I know, right? I don't hate her. She's got a lot of experience. I just felt, and I've been saying this for 2 years on our show, I just feel that she should start her own production company and do with it whatever she wants to do. Create whatever she wants to create. And let the market decide if that's really what they want.
But
and that's the problem. She's not doing that.
Can we say that for, though? How many different... And I think the problem ultimately lies on what the companies think people want to see. So they bring these people in. Like I was saying, I don't particularly have a beef with Rian Johnson. I've seen some of his older stuff. I like The Brick. I like Looper. Yes, I know it's got a ton of flaws and plot holes, but I thought it was entertaining. Yeah. Knives Out was garbage.
Yeah, but he's always been a piece of shit as a person.
But as a person, yeah, he's always been terrible. And it's making choices like that goes across the board. You know, and it's the choices companies make for like firing people for certain things before having all the facts. And we've seen that in The Expanse with that one actor that they fired. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. From how I heard that case, nothing concrete came out, and they cut him in the middle of a season.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff with Chris Pratt and people getting on him, the way they blackballed Kevin Costner for years.
Well, I mean, it happened on the television series The Flash. You know, the actor that was playing Elongated Man, and he's gone. Yep. And that was for tweets from like way back.
And and that's why, because like going back to Ryan Johnson, he had deleted 20,000 plus tweets. And I used to follow him because I was a big fan of the movie Brick.
That was a great movie.
And so I started following him, and then I like stopped following him because he's kind of a piece of shit. When he's on Twitter, he loves and two of his friends would absolutely just bully the shit out of other nerds. And they didn't care if it was comics, Star Trek, Star Wars. They didn't care. They would just go in there and they wanted to be so counterculture. They thought they were like really cool nerds. It's like they were just mean girls is really what they were. Ryan Johnson, his buddy, and a woman friend of theirs, I'm not going to say their names, would get on there and just bully people and just fuck with them and then gang up on them. They gang up on them. And once I saw that, I'm like, I want nothing to do with you, prick. So when he started pulling his shenanigans with Star Wars, I'm like, this is nothing new. He's always been a twant,
Oh yeah, without a doubt. He's always come off as that kind of personality. Planet Q's Creed said they did it to Johnny in December 2018 because of a dumb chick. Yeah, him losing the Pirates of the Caribbean and things like that. And
fucking with people's living, that's
it's
a special kind of fucking evil.
And on top of that, it's doing it, and this all comes back to what we talk about. It's doing it with no evidence. There's been essentially witch hunts where they are.
Cancel culture is not about evidence, buddy. It's not. It's all about, somebody said something. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how bad this person is. Oh, we're not going to worry about proof. We're just going to talk about this person's a rapist. And I've seen it within our family. A close member of our family got canceled like that, and people attack them, lost their fucking business over it.
Wow.
And that's some bullshit, man. And none of it's true. All of them backed down eventually. But the damage was done. Once the damage is done, it's done. You can't undo it.
That's the biggest, and you just highlighted, that's the biggest thing that really upsets me about the way it's going these days, is people don't realize once you put this out here into the world, once you say what you got to say, and it's with JD or the actor from The Flash or any of these other actors, right? They don't realize, yes, you can prove that they're innocent overall. But that's always going to be on their reputation that you put it out into the world. You put that out there, you can't ever take it back. Mm-hmm. And it's a long-lasting stain. And it's getting to a point where anybody can make these claims without any basis in fact or reality. And if you just get just enough people, just enough of these weirdo idiots behind a keyboard to co-sign on it, then that person is done. Remember that thing they had where Disney was actually tracking Twitter? They were actually looking at what's trending and all of this stuff. And that goes to the whole Gino Carano thing. They were actually following the tweets and everything going out. And that played a large role. And now companies, I don't think decisions should be made off of mobs. It just shouldn't be.
Well, let me at least clarify something, though. While Disney may have watched the Twitter, the fault for everything with Gina squarely lies with Lucasfilm. And as has been the way the story has been coming out, and it's going to play pretty much to what's eventually going to happen. Turns out that Lucasfilm has pretty much been acting outside or beyond where they should when it comes to certain things that have happened, whether it's firing Gina Carano or hiring someone that used to work very closely with Harvey Weinstein, despite any misgivings about this person and what they may have done in the past. Look, the incident with James Gunn showed that there is a way back when it comes to people having tweeted something really dumb years ago. And for all those people that have suffered, Disney has shown that there is a way to move to allow that person the opportunity to at least make amends.
Yeah.
If you are not willing to do that, if you're just willing to just out and out let somebody go, I mean, it creates.
Whereas, and I do want to interject here, Gina
Yeah.
did nothing wrong.
Yes.
She has an opinion, just like Pablo Pascal has an opinion. It doesn't matter which one I agree with. What's important is they both have their opinions, and they were both saying the same thing, but just talking from different sides of the aisle. And she gets targeted, and he just keeps going, having done nothing different than what she did, except for one thing. He's not really good at memeing.
Oh no, he's really terrible. Like, I would look at it and go, dude, do you know your history? Or
well, I'm going to bring it up. He used a photo from the Middle East and acted like it was kids in a cage in our fucking Southwest. And I'm like, those are Middle Eastern kids in Syria. Are you that fucking dumb that you don't know that? You know, but, you know, I don't expect people to do their research when they meme. Most people are just like, I feel this way, I'm saying this, and they'll go do it. Whereas when I meme, I'm usually kind of mean, but I really have something to say when I meme, and I research everything before I do it.
Sean B had actually a great question for you guys. He said, who do you guys think will take Kathleen Kennedy's place in Lucasfilm in the future?
Well, let me say something, and Keith, you jump right into this after I do it, because he's the orator. He's the guy that's really expands. I just get right to it and then talk my shit and then move on. So here's what's going on. I don't give a shit what Andy signaled, because I like Andy, but Andy's full of shit. Anybody who fucking says that Disney's sudden adding of Filoni as one of the creative directors over at Lucasfilm, I mean, like for months, almost over half a year, that thing's been out there that he's been that boss, but nobody knew it. Nobody fucking knew it. And they just suddenly added it to the Lucasfilm website. Like the webmaster was like, oh, I forgot to add him. No, that's not accidental. It's intentional. It was intentional. They quietly slid him into that position back in, I think, December. And then almost half a year later, oh, hey, by the way, he's okay. And Andy Signal goes, don't make a big deal out of this. This is not. Yes, it is. It is something big. Stop shilling. Stop pretending that important news isn't important. Stop distracting with bullshit. It's bullshit. And this is one of the reasons why Campia got hurt, because he would do shit like this. Notice how that he had that fucking job and nobody mentioned it publicly until last week.
Yeah.
And
if you think that's not news, you're a fucking idiot.
The signs that are coming down that something big is happening at Disney, it's there. And there's a lot of people working at Lucasfilm who are beginning to realize that their futures with that company aren't long. You know, maybe a year ago they thought they had all the time in the world. Well, that time is over. And I think some of them are beginning to realize the reason why Disney hasn't brought the hammer down is that they were giving them enough rope to hang themselves so they could fire a whole lot of these people for cause.
And real quick, I got a $5 super chat from Phantasmagorical. Thank you very much. It says, hey, Zod, would it be okay to drop the GoFundMe for my kids? Their dad died on the 20th in a motorcycle accident. Yes, you may. And I'm sorry. My condolences for that. That's
awful. That is awful.
That's a terrible thing to go through. And you guys are always welcome. Everybody who's modded on my channel, feel free to drop any links you want to. I know no one gets ridiculous with it. Which, by the way, speaking of links, if you guys are loving this conversation, you guys can check out these fine folks' channel. I put the link in the description, and you could go over there. So what struck me interesting is, when did you guys sort of start doing, like, what did you come in on? Because for me, I started doing this. I had started a channel like all of us very long ago and kind of forgot about it. But I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So I saw Fantastic Beasts and I liked it. And then I went to see Fantastic Beasts 2 and I was pissed. So my first review was me in my friend's room on my cell phone, his closet full of clothes hanging out. I don't care. It's not top tier quality. I'm sitting here talking about how terrible it was. And ironically, I said, and it's so funny this happened, I said, and I quote, "The only good thing this movie has going for it is that Johnny Depp is in the film." And fuck me, that happens. I go, well, I guess I'm not seeing number 3. But I mean, for me, that was kind of my start to this. So when did you guys mentioned you had good rapport. You said, hey, we should film some of this conversation. People would find this stuff interesting. Mm-hmm. But what was the catalyst? When were you like, okay, let's set up the cameras. Let's do this.
Well, it was that panel. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say within 2-3 weeks. No, actually, it was almost a month later when we were finally able to get together to start
it was
recording.
December when that happened for the Christmas thing for Geekmas. And we did that panel and people were saying, you guys need to do a show. And so I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do a show. So I started getting things set up in my room studio, and I set everything up. And on, I think it was January 19th, it was our first show of that year, 2019. And this is our third season. And we'll take a little bit of time off in between and try to figure some of this stuff out. Because we didn't have anybody. As many people as I knew, nobody was like doing what they do now, where it's like, you got 1,000, let's celebrate. Nobody fucking celebrated our first 1,000. Nobody gave two shits about it.
I give you a hug right now. That was like a big thing. I had a drinking celebration.
Well, I just didn't even think about it. And so when we started like getting involved with that, I'm like going, what? How the fuck did we miss that we could be doing that? I didn't know that, It's like when I said we were going to go do monetization, I already had a show planned out and just going to start doing monetization. Someone's like, no, you got to have a monetization party. I'm like, I'm not Jewish. Is this a bar mitzvah? What the fuck are you talking about? Monetization party. What are you talking about? I didn't know these things. Nobody fucking helped us except for our friends at Midnight's Edge were always there in our ears. And they liked us. They liked the things we said. They liked how Keith would get into detail about things. And Tom and I have a very good friendship from Midnight's Edge. We're really good friends. And I absolutely fucking love those guys. And I adore Andre. Jesus Christ. There's nothing gay about me, but I swear to God, if I were, that's the guy that would get me. Andre.
Tom and Andre are just too much fun. And they are really, really nice guys. I have learned so much from them and from watching other channels, people like Robert Meyer Burnett, which,
both of us came to him separately. It's really funny that you and I are both big fans of Robert Meyer Burnett, and we came to him in different ways. And then you said something about him one day. I'm like, no shit, you like Robert? That fucking dude's cool, man. Fuck yeah. Because I knew him because he was involved with Axanar. And I was a financial supporter for that. And then I backed out once I found out that he wasn't a part of it anymore. And I'm like, I want nothing to do with you if he's not doing it. That was the guy. He was the driving force.
That's the way I felt about it. Look, Gary and I have a lot of things in common when it comes to likes, dislikes, when it comes to influences. We both grew up around the same time. He in Virginia and me initially in Ohio. And then
both growing up in the Black community. And it's true. I grew up in the Black community. Keith saw what Victor said on my page, that I was just sort of adopted by the black community there in Fredericksburg. I was part of the fucking community because I was the token white guy. I was the only white guy for like blocks, and I just I don't know. I never saw a community more open and loving, and that changed my life and had a huge impact on me.
We're both kids that.
He's had a real quick question for you guys, and I think it's a good one. Said, when was Disney's last shareholders meeting / call? And it was recent, wasn't it? They recently did one. It was actually quite a shocker. I watched Clownfish.
That was March, as I recall, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was March.
It was somewhere in there, and it was very interesting because that's when they announced the whole Republic's. That show that they were going to do with Gina Carano was canceled, which I figured that was coming.
Well, they did it this way, and they used COVID as an excuse to not do it the normal way, and they did that, I do believe, to avoid having to deal with angry investors.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a total save face move. And this is the thing that irks me about this is that actually that'll round me to my next topic was the virus of unspecified origins has been a big excuse for for a lot of the reasons for production halts. Now it's just like, oh yeah, we started shooting before COVID, but then it just happened and we shut down and the world shut down and we have no clue when it's going to open back up and guidelines and masks and blah blah blah. It's like it gives them the ultimate cop out to do all of these shady moves and it be held non-accountable for anything.
They were part of the driving force that led to this shit. And that they're suffering from their own fucking decisions. We refer to that in writing as irony. So,
hello, Taylor. Yeah, I mean, and I said at the start of this program, you could trace this failure back. The box office has always been failing, and you know what? I'm going to say something edgy. I'm going to say something controversial. It's pandering to China. There's a push to pander to the Chinese market.
Yeah, that shit's gonna burn their ass soon.
Yeah. I was talking with you guys haven't seen her yet. She's one of the people that I work with here on my channel, Mad Squirrel, and I'm gonna see if I can do something with her on this. But she told me there's a document out there, and she pulled it up, and it's regulations for China to get anything made. So if you guys notice weird things in your films, like not a lot of smoking, push for Asian leads, a reduction of African-American actors, a push for females in the background. Notice they're not pushing that hard anymore. It's because that the Chinese guidelines for cinema prohibit a ton more than we do. Even blood, gore, violence, they censor all of that. So all of the new films coming out, if you notice, they're getting kind of weird with the things that they're cutting out. It's specifically to pander to the market, and it's been coming for years. That's why everything seems weird. They did it with Netflix. If you guys noticed in the beginning of Stranger Things, there was a lot of smoking, things from the 80s references and things. They cut out the smoking because it didn't play to the foreign market. They cut out the suicide stuff and thing from 13 Reasons Why, because it bothered the foreign market. That's what it's been all about. That's the key.
it's the slow migration towards homogenization. And I prefer, look, I'm an anti-smoker. I fucking hate smoking. I don't like people smoking around me, but that's the fucking reality of life. People fucking smoke. And to remove it from entertainment it's in my opinion, it's a Minnie Mouse. And what do I mean by that? That means it's fucking goofy. And
oh, I got that. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah. You get it. It's fucking goofy to do shit like that. And I don't like a lot of things, but I'll still watch a movie that has them in it or a TV show because, well, that's just the reality of it. Where I have a problem with it is when it becomes blatant tokenism or a blatant blanket removal of things. And I'm like, who are you placating to? Over half your fucking audience smokes, dips, or whatever. So why are you doing that? Who are you worried about? Who are you really worried about? And so when you start seeing stuff like that, and I was making fun of the whole Marvel LGBTQ crap because it's like, look, man, I know my family, my friends I have so many fucking gay people, trans in my life that none of them are represented with what Marvel's doing. Not one of them. Not even my son, who's a what do they call that? He does it for entertainment. What's it called? Drag queen. My son Benjamin is a drag queen, and I'm trying to get him on our show. I'm fucking excited about getting him on our show because that kid's a nerd. But even with his drag queen stuff, and he's out there, girlfriend. Let me tell you about my son Benjamin. He's like, sweetheart. And it was funny because I saw the transition because like when he was like 18, he's like, hey, he would call me father. Hey, father. He's like the cat from Sylvester's Kid, hey, father. And he would talk to me. And then all of a sudden, like one day I was talking to him and he's like, oh my God, let me tell you something. I'm like, what the hell happened? And I was making fun of him for it. I'm like last week you were talking like, dude, what's going on? I'm gay. And then this week it's like, oh, I'm totally gay. I'm flaming. And I'm like, so I made fun of it. But he wanted to come out, and that's what happened. And I'm proud of him. I love him. I'm not proud of him because he's gay. I'm proud that he's not afraid to be gay. In public, he's never been afraid of it. He's never had to closet himself. Nobody's ever, fucking harassed him. And but I'm proud of him because that guy, he lives his life exactly the way he wants to. And he's an amazing writer and an incredible art. All my kids are amazing artists, and writers too, very good writers. And my son Benjamin, that's how he focused, instead of on the art side, he focused on the writing, and he's an incredible writer. And I want to get him on our show, and I kind of want to talk about some of this stuff with him. About my feelings that the gay community is not represented by any of these fucking people. That it's blatant fucking tokenism, and it should be insulting to every gay trans person out there.
I'm so glad you admit that because you said what I think Hollywood hasn't gotten. It used to be, because I'm a 90s kid, right? It used to be in that era. People were different about it. You couldn't come out and say that kind of thing because there was a real physical threat, violence. Those things did exist, but we've moved past that. We've accepted people for these things, and I talk about it a lot here on the channel. It's a thing that I find hilarious is Hollywood over course corrects. Instead of making minor adjustments, they just take a full freaking left turn.
That's Hollywood for you. And you said something earlier that I want to address about do you think these execs will change? And the fact is, this is one thing that is as constant as the Northern Star. Hollywood does not have the ability to learn. They cannot learn. They don't understand how to learn. They're the kind of person that says, oh my God, my dinner party failed. It was the blue dress I wore. Even though the blue dress had nothing to fucking do with it. But that's how their brains fucking work. They always correlate things to the wrong fucking thing that went wrong. They don't pay attention that it was just their dumb decision to make an ice sculpture out of a penis.
Oh God, I've seen those too, and
or into a penis.
I don't know if I could be at that party and not have some good jokes for that.
I would be that asshole who'd be constantly going, I'm melting it until it becomes a vagina.
Keith,
I'm just gonna keep touching it.
let me ask you something. Do you feel like Hollywood has represented the Black community well? That they have embodied the heart and soul. That Black Panther was a masterpiece because it was all about the culture. And
Why are you asking Keith this question?
Well, you know,
he's not black. That's just bad lighting.
Let me tell you something. Given my experience as a film lover over the past years, I will say this. What has been happening over the last 10 years has been, it hasn't been as great as it should have been. And that isn't to say that there aren't those people that haven't done things that have been cool. Did I enjoy Black Panther? Yes. Do I think it's the greatest movie ever made? It's well done. It is technically one of the best movies of its year because of the type of people that were able to work on it and what they were able to get out of it. It did everything that Kevin Feige and Marvel wanted it to do, and it wasn't as forced as Captain.
Worst boss fight ever.
and it wasn't as forced as Captain Marvel was as a movie. Because Captain Marvel's hard to sit through. And that's saying a lot because I'm a big Sam Jackson fan.
Oh yeah, I love Sam Jackson.
but the thing is that I've been rather disappointed though, in that when it comes to the very nerdy stuff out there, people of color haven't been allowed to actually do anything or put out anything that is very representative of people that look like me that have created something or characters that fall within that. And this is what I mean. A good example of this is part of the reason why DC and Warner Brothers hasn't done very well. There are a lot more characters of color within DC's IP than they've ever allowed themselves to show.
Yep.
And what Gary and I have been talking about on our show is it just seems like certain IPs, certain characters are allowed to continue to progress or be presented to the point where you're even changing sex or race of those characters rather than having characters that you know would fit the bill, that you don't have to make any changes to. That you don't have to really do that much with. You just put them in there. Like, say, good example would be Supergirl, the television series on the CW. The stunt casting with Jimmy Olsen and making him black shows either the people behind the show aren't as big a comic book fans as they say they are, or they conveniently forgot that there's more than one black character that's a part of the Superman mythos. And and that's his name's Ron Troop. And that Berlanti, the guy who is the head of all things CW right now, he actually got to start working for the people that made Smallville. He somehow conveniently forgot that there was this character from the comics that they used in only 2 episodes of Smallville, and that you only saw him physically in 1 episode of Smallville for less than maybe a minute and a half. And yet when it came time to putting together Supergirl, they conveniently forgot, like they had no more black people to spare. Well, then let's just bring in Jimmy Olsen and make him black.
I am sick to fucking death of gingers getting race swapped. That Hollywood has an anti-ginger thing going. It's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. I watched a thing on Clownfish TV about this, and I never realized when they brought up their points, it's actually true. Funny you bring that up. There's been a lot of things against gingers that if we're talking about a class of people who have been discriminated, how many of those characters have been swapped out? Like, why aren't we talking about this, Hollywood? Get on this minority here. They're just being pushed to the side.
Yeah, it's like if you want to talk about a group of people who have historically had problems because of their skin color and hair color, it's gingers. Kate talked about it on the show one night. She gets a little emotional in it, but she was talking about how, you weren't a real ginger unless you got bullied, and I don't agree with that completely, because I think some gingers made it through, but I know, like, my brother became brutal as a person because of how much bullying he had suffered over his being a bright red-haired kid. But then you look at my middle kid, and he was a ginger. He never got bullied once, and because ginger runs in my family. And but the thing is it depends on where you're at, and it will happen. It has happened, and it'll continue going on, because they only make up 2% of the human population, gingers.
That should be the most protected.
But the thing is, though, is there is this hatred for gingers, and I don't understand it. And to race swap him again on this new stupid fucking show that I will never watch, My Adventures with Superman, whatever they call this new stupid animated show, to do it again, and it's Berlanti. Berlanti is such a fucking liar. Keith brought him up, and I'm just saying, yeah, that's who he's directing that to. He's directing the comment about being a fake nerd or a big comic book fan. No, he's a fucking liar. He's not. He has selective fandom. He's very specific in what he's a fan of. And I guarantee you, he didn't come to those on his own. That he was told what to read, and that's what he focused on, and that's what he focuses on his stupid shows. And his shows tank. Nobody fucking watches his shows.
Nailed it. Said hashtag there are no gingers in Hollywood. Yeah. For all
the only gingers in Hollywood are fake gingers.
Okay, just put I love gingerbread men biscuits. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Don't know what to say about that. Anyways, no, and they're doing this Red Sonja movie, and I'm very curious to see if they're going to.
I'm not happy with the casting. I am not happy with the casting.
It looks terrible.
I'm out.
Absolutely.
I'm out. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it. This, Red Sonja was a Scandinavian type character, and they're immediately playing politics, social politics with it, and it's like, all right, I'm done. If you're going to and I'm so shocked because the Robert E. Howard estate is so tough on like Marvel. Marvel can't fuck with the Conan comics. They're not able to do anything. They have to write it a specific way that is approved by the Robert E. Howard estate. Yet somehow these movies get made, and they're just some of the worst.
Yeah, they are. They really are. It's been since they've taken this property, and I noticed it with the new Conan the Barbarian, which I didn't think was the worst, but wasn't that great. I don't know why it's been so hard since the Arnold Schwarzenegger days to get this character and these other characters right. They've messed up every single one of these movies since that has come out. They've never gotten any of these movies right. I don't understand it. And if I'm not mistaken, Disney or them don't own it. So I don't understand why whoever has this property can't seem to produce a good movie. I just don't get it.
Our friends at Midnight Edge, they have done several videos about this, and I think they have one that covers this specifically because Andre is probably the world's biggest Conan fan. And so they cover the history of all of the Conan properties and films and books. And they also cover the whole thing about Red Sonja also. So if you ever get a chance, check out Midnight's Edge, check out their videos, check out all their Conan videos, and especially their videos about Stardeck.
Well, hey, good plug. Yeah, it's been really interesting to see like how they take these things, and you would think that it would be really easy for them to adapt them, but whether it's trying to tailor to a different kind of audience or it's trying to water down stuff to reach a wider audience, that's not the demographic some of this stuff was designed.
No, the people that they're placating to are not the kind of people who are, one, paying customers, two, repeat paying customers. And instead, they alienate the people who are repeat customers. And that shit started heavily with Ghostbusters 2016. That was really when Hollywood showed its hand that it hates nerds. They want our money, but they want us to shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you're talking to the wrong group of people, because almost every nerd I'm friends with is a snarky prick.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Sorry. I'm multitasking here. Okay. Yeah, I find it really interesting because it's been this thing where, like, no matter what the property is, no matter what they're adapting, they can't seem to get this stuff right. And the more I look at it, it's more of the demographic. And you know what, too? I'm a huge fan of horror. And this has been a problem and an issue in the horror genre as well, is that horror movies, they release like 20 or 30 PG-13 horror movies. And why they do that is because they know that R-rated horror is a specific demographic. It's harder to get people into that. But if you make it a PG-13, you can net more of the young teenagers in, so they water it down. And they've been doing this for years, and I'm kind of glad to see R-rated ones come out that do well, because it was like, hey, this genre is better served here than it is to the masses.
Well, and the other thing that's helped is when you have people become successful, like Blumhouse, in helping to bring horror back to Hollywood, but do it cheaper. That is the number one thing that would really help the entire industry right now, is to start cutting these budgets, because that's what they really need to do. There is no reason in the world that you have to be making some of these films that they've targeted to be made. You don't need to be spending $150 million making, say, like an A-Team movie. If they decided to do another one of those, there's no reason to be spending There's no reason to really be spending $150 million making a James Bond film. Oh,
by the way, this is my father in the chat. Hey, Dad. So, if you guys don't know, on Saturdays, me and Father Zod do a news segment. So he's just dropping in. He finds your guys's or our chat interesting, which I do find interesting, because it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on today to talk about this stuff, because you guys know people. It's not just me citing stuff. And this is the thing. I do my late night talks, and I pull ridiculous articles and make fun of them, because the media, and I don't know about you, I don't want you guys to state your age if you don't want to, but I know I'm getting a bit older. And when I was a kid, the media used to be so reliable. It's probably why I got half the people I have on now. They used to be a reliable source. You could say, I seen it on Fox, MSNBC, whatever your poison was, New York Times, LA Post, whatever. And it used to be you could go there and get, at the very least, facts and not just opinions. But now, especially in entertainment, there's rampant misinformation and rampant clear articles drafting off of each other, taking other people's articles and citing it as their own, not citing sources. So I'm glad to have you guys who are actually like on the inside, and you talk to people and you go like, yeah, this is a thing. This is not a thing, because it's so hard to trust all of these supposed, and I'm fucking pissed, Twitter, give me a blue check mark. All of these blue check mark people can talk a bunch of bullshit and they get a blue check mark. Why can't I get a blue check mark? I actually have facts. I actually state stuff.
I couldn't get one for mine.
Why?
I am the official comic book artist, Gary Cassell, and there's no blue check mark on my personal Twitter account. They refused me. I gave them proof I am the Gary Cassell that does these graphic novels and comic books. And they said, no, sorry, no, you're not allowed to be a blue check mark. And I'm like, fuck you then. I'm going to be rude. And
I guarantee you I'm the only, Keith that is me that does what I do on Twitter, and they wouldn't give me one either. So and I even tried to play the black card. It's like, hey, look, I'm black.
Damn
give me one. That didn't work either. They refused my credit on that one. But it's just, I don't know. A lot of it is frustrating, especially if you're a nerd. Nerd news sources have disappeared, and as corporations have gotten more and more involved in entertainment, it's almost like they're trying to basically pull us in with the rest of the herd to try to get us to use the same news sources. There are some news sources that are just completely and utterly biased. Comicbook.com. But it's just it's difficult. It's difficult to find sources that you could truly rely on. Speaking of someone that's had to do a lot of looking, I have gotten to the point where there are a small group of sites whom I will actually say to myself, okay, I can believe that. For a majority of others, I try to find at least 2 to 3 other sources beyond whatever they report to corroborate what they say. I got to do work. And if you're going to do what we do, you got to put in a little bit of time nowadays. To a lot of you younger people, I'm sorry. Yeah, we had it easier when we were younger. You guys are just going to have to work that much harder to get to the truth. But it'll be worth it.
Yeah, because the dishonesty of the media, I mean, dishonesty was kind of there since the 60s. But it was like far and few between. You didn't get it like you do today, where it's just constant bombardment of absolute fucking lying and selling an ideological belief system that majority of the people, to at least half of them, don't fucking agree with, but they just keep doing it to their own detriment. That they're like kids that cut. That's how I see the media today, and that includes even with the entertainment media. They're so full of shit with everything. And this goes back to what I said with executives in Hollywood not being able to learn from their mistakes. Well, the media doesn't learn from their mistakes either. They just try the exact same idea, but with what they think is a new tactic. But it's not a new tactic. It's just repeating the same thing, which is it's a definition of insanity. Keep trying the same thing over and over again, despite it failing, and then we're going to do it again differently, but exactly the same. That's crazy.
Covering the Johnny Depp story. That's why I started covering it as part of my regular thing, because that was the thing I found interesting too. Is there's hundreds and thousands of things out there, but when I start looking into it, there's a very small segment of the actual big mainstream media that want to touch it. And it's because it goes against the narrative, right? It's starting to look like the person they threw in for, when you look at the very beginning of this investigation, they were thrown in with Amber Heard. And now it's starting to look like she's been the liar the whole time. So now they're in this position where they go, well,
nothing changed. Nothing changed. They know that, but then they start. It's sort of like that disease that we can't name. It's like the information on where it came from has always been there. We knew this, And now all of a sudden, a certain doctor is like going, we need to look into this. No shit, motherfucker. No shit. No, you're fucking kidding me. Really? We've known this since it came out, but now this is your directive. And the media's like, we need to look into this. I'm so done with the media. I don't watch news anymore. I can't watch it. I want to throw things and break the TV when they start talking. This includes even conservative TV. I can't stand listening to it. It fucking drives me crazy. I can't even enjoy entertainment news anymore. I get my entertainment news through the fucking chat with my friends.
And if you guys
I rely on Keith doing the research because he's the fucking research dude when it comes to that stuff.
And speaking of which, if you guys don't know, this is my other half, Mr. Pop Culture PV, and he says, what did Zod fuck up now? Nothing yet, you son of a bitch. Anyways.
PV?
I find it fascinating because I've been in that same situation. There was a scathing article that came out a while ago that I covered on the JD situation, and it was from THR. And up to this point, I have followed THR on a lot of stuff because for the most part, they had been down the middle, not really biased when it came to certain things. They reported facts. But then I noticed that even them, this lady who works for them wrote a whole piece, and it was one-sided, stating how horrible he was in all of this stuff. And then very rarely stating things where it was like, oh, but she did this, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, if you didn't look really close in the article, it was like a short sentence. And then it continued with a character assassination, I'm going to say. And that's when I realized THR, Vanity, all of these things, they've gone completely dark side. It almost feels like
well, a lot of it's up for sale. A lot of it is up for sale. There is a war of information with some of those outlets.
Because everybody knows that Variety is paid for. They're a Hollywood commercial website and bought and paid for by the studio system.
Yeah, one of the things that's leading up to what's going to happen with Disney was an article in Forbes magazine that caught everyone's attention, and it turns out that you were dealing with someone who wrote what is basically a hit piece that threw Bob Chapek under the bus, and that's what motivated him to start getting off his backside and turning up the heat on Kathleen Kennedy and all her friends. You can do that if you have enough time, enough money, if you're well placed enough, and if you find somebody sympathetic in whatever news organization that you go to. You can usually find that. You'll find contradictory articles being published sometimes within a week of one another, where they'll take one side or another. You saw that with the whole Zack Snyder situation. You know, the positive Zack Snyder articles were ones that were being done by people that did all the research and talked to everyone. The negative articles were coming from people that were well placed, usually paying attention strictly to the people that were running Warner Brothers at that time. Many of whom are now looking for other work.
And here's the thing: I'm not aboard and my co-host would tell you he can't stand Zack Snyder. And for me, I'm not part of the hashtag release the Snyder Cut, but I enjoy his other stuff. I personally think what he did with DC sucks. As a fan of DC, I did not like the direction whatsoever. I feel like a lot of people bandwagoned and forgot about their initial problems with his first movies. But at the same time, I am in support of fan movements. And this, when defending him, this isn't about the fact of whether Zack Snyder needed a 4-hour movie. My personal opinion is he didn't. But it's about the clear trying to assassinate his character just because it's not part of the Hollywood agenda. I can't stand the fact that they put out all of this stuff because him getting this sets a precedent they don't want. That directors can do what they want to do and actually make a vision they want to make, and that people will like it. They don't want to accept that, because if they accept that, and if this is successful, which it was very successful, then they have to admit the way they've been doing this stuff for years now is completely and totally wrong.
Well, this goes to what we've covered on our show. This goes to what we've covered on our show.
Before you do, can I add something?
Yeah.
And then you take over. I see the comments, PB and Queen both fuck Zack Snyder. I was a fuck Zack Snyder too, because even though I was a fan of his earlier work, I blamed him for the shitty Superman.
Oh,
and everybody stop. Everybody stop. When he stepped in, he was given a job to shoot the film that was written. And he did not come up with those ideas. That was a script that was written by the Nolans and was approved by Warner Brothers and their DC cronies. And he was told that he had to shoot it that way if he wanted to do what he wanted to do. So I stopped hating Zack Snyder when I learned that. Because now I will still say this, that motherfucker doesn't understand Superman. He doesn't understand him. He's a fucking nihilist, and he doesn't understand the Boy Scout that Superman has to be to operate.
You and PB would get along great.
He doesn't understand it, but I do like his ideas, and I want the Snyderverse brought back, but we need Henry Cavill and The Rock to push what they want, which is a real Superman. They want Superman to be Superman, not the Warner Brothers adaptation, but the actual version of Superman that it was already said by the best Superman movie ever made. Its director, Richard Donner, said that the only way to make a Superman movie and have it work, he has to be a Boy Scout. And if
that's the contrast between him and Batman, right? Batman is on the edge.
He knows he's physically superior than everybody else, and yet he never gives 100%. He barely gives any of his percentage of strength because he knows it would hurt. He would fight a villain. I mean, anytime, and this is what Batman used against him. Because he knew Superman would never put, even with the kryptonite suit and all that shit, he still wouldn't put all of his fight into it because he's afraid of hurting Batman. And he uses that against him.
Ever cast Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor ever again. I don't care what anyone tells me. He is the most horrendous Lex Luthor.
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible.
In existence. Bring back Michael Rosenbaum. That's all I got to say.
No, now, Zach, I will say this. I don't agree with pop culture on this one. He's not an idiot. He's just not a very good director. He's like so many directors that do well only with really good scripts. When he has a good script, he's a good cinematographer, but he doesn't understand character development. He doesn't understand. He's like Ridley Scott. He just doesn't understand that shit. And that's why you see such hit and misses with Ridley Scott. If he's got a good solid script, you get a good solid movie. If you get a halfway decent script, you get a halfway decent film. If you get a goofy fucking script, you got a goofy fucking film. Because Ridley's just gonna fucking put what's in the script on the screen.
Zach is the same way. Like I watched the Army.
Very much that way.
I'm going to do a review on it, but I saw a lot of that. Like he started really good, interesting ideas. And then about midway to the end of the film, don't get me wrong, the end sequence has probably some of the best violence I've seen on screen. But it's like towards the end of the film, some of the story threads just get dropped or forgotten about. I'm like, wait, what about this thing here and this thing here? He's very scatterbrained with his script writing. So he'll start with a good idea, but then he'll get another one. But then he'll get another one, and he'll try to put them all into it, and then only one or two will pan out, and it makes a really weird, uneven movie. And
he needs a good co-writer, which is what he had with Chris Terrio. The whole DC Films thing comes down to this: when Warner Brothers decided to start making their DC movies, okay? First of all this stuff with Man of Steel, many people would call that the DCEU or DC Films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little something for you. That was actually Warner Brothers DC Films version 2, because they've been making DC movies since 2000. There was a whole string of movies, DC films, that they made from 2000 to 2012. When Man of Steel was decided to be, when they decided to actually make a Superman movie, that was strictly based on what Christopher Nolan had done with Batman. That's what Warner Brothers wanted. Specifically, they wanted that. They wanted a Superman in the vein of Batman. In fact, it came from the executives themselves, how they saw DC heroes. They wanted, now remember, this is looking through the Christopher Nolan lens of Batman. They wanted flying Batman. They wanted super fast Batman. Underwater Batman. With a lasso. And so when they approached Christopher Nolan as he was finishing up the Dark Knight trilogy, they said, look, we want you to be our guru for all things DC. We want to make a Superman movie. And the first thing Christopher Nolan told him was, no, I don't do that. Those aren't my kinds of films. I need something with a little bit of grounding of reality in it, which is part of the reason why everybody likes Dark Knight films. Okay? But he did have an idea. And he got together with his brother and one other, David Goyer. His brother and David Goyer, that's the writing.
Fuck David Goyer.
I like David Goyer.
That's the writing team that gave him Batman Begins. And it's the steady writing team throughout all of the Dark Knight trilogy. Okay? He had an idea. They started working on the script. Nolan gives Warner Brothers, once they had the script, they start working on Man of Steel well before even Zack Snyder was hired.
Interesting.
And so Nolan knew Zack Snyder. He got Snyder hired. The reason why Warner Brothers went along with it was that Nolan was their guy. He was their golden kid. He was the ultimate talent at Warner Brothers. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to say no to your guy? No, they're going to accept this guy. But they didn't want him. They never wanted him. And from the moment that he started work on Man of Steel, it was decided that anything that they could do to push him out a little sooner so they could get Chris Nolan to change his mind was what they were going to do.
And
now,
then they
Man
put
of Steel,
Chris Nolan's film Tenet direct to HBO Max.
well, yeah, that you jumped
up.
to the end of the story. You jumped to the end of the story. For all their machinations against Zack Snyder, they ended up pissing off Chris Nolan anyway. You know, the thing is that when Zack Snyder signed up to make Man of Steel, he realized, as Gary said, that he didn't have an opportunity to write anything. He never really had the opportunity to make the kind of Superman movie that he wanted. So he got them to agree to allow him to make Man of Steel 2 the way that he wanted. If you go back and look at all of the interviews around the time that Man of Steel came out, Snyder is talking about Man of Steel 2 a lot. Okay? So when the movie comes out and doesn't do as well as Warner Brothers had wanted it to do, they go to Zack Snyder and they say, hey, we're going to help you out a bit, okay? For your next movie.
By the way, insert something there with you. Remember what it is? Executives don't understand why things fail.
Oh yeah.
They blame Zack Snyder, not the stupid fucking script.
So then they had him. They told him that they wanted to actually jumpstart into the rest of the DC films. They wanted him to open up the universe. Okay, so they informed him that no matter what he was doing next with Man of Steel 2, he was going to put Batman and Wonder Woman in it.
Oh, well, that's
okay.
Quite...
And so remember, he was coming up with ideas. He and Henry Cavill were coming up with ideas for Man of Steel 2, and then this bombshell dropped in their laps where Warner Brothers is like, hey, we don't care what you do, but Batman and Wonder Woman have to be in it.
And really quick, Mr. Six, yes, this is my Daryl Dixon shirt. I am a huge Walking Dead fan, and it says on the bottom, killing it, because that's what he does.
Six is our friend. Keith's my friend, and it's a her. And she's awesome. She's a mod on our channel.
And I apologize for assuming.
You assumed her gender, man.
That was my white privilege getting in the way, and I would like to formally apologize now.
Don't apologize. It happens. When I met her, she was Jedi 6, I think was what she went by.
Yeah.
And had a horse.
Look. To finish up the story, let me quickly say this. Snyder went ahead and got together with Chris Terrio, and they wrote out everything that they were going to do. So Batman v Superman, which was going to lead to the 3 Justice League movies to wrap everything up. And then he was done.
Mm-hmm.
That was all he was wanting to do. All he had to do was Batman v Superman, 3 Justice League movies, and he was out. Okay? He works on Batman v Superman. He's always getting constant notes from the executives and people at the very top of Warner Brothers. He tries to accommodate all of the things that they want to change. So what happens? Warner Brothers, once he's done with the movie, they chop 30 minutes out of the movie and put it out. The movie doesn't do well. So what happens with Warner Brothers? They blame Zach. Well, Zach, you didn't do your job. You failed us.
Yeah, they meddle so much at Warner Brothers.
Meddle so much. It's like he's like, well, wait a minute. You cut 30 minutes out of my movie.
Well, by Todd Phillips too. When you look at that, Warner Bros. Can try to take the credit, like, that was strictly Todd Phillips who did that and made that happen, because the companies wanted nothing to do with the film, that
was a different screw up for that film. Joker.
Yeah, that movie is proof of how stupid Hamada and his fucking crew are.
Because after all of the stuff they did behind the scenes with Justice League, and that was a cluster F from the very beginning. All of the stuff they did to Zack Snyder, all of the stuff they did to a lot of the people that worked on that film. You may not like Ray Fisher, but a lot of that was true. Zack Snyder's got weird stuff going on in his head. And given who his father was and how he acted, people should have known this dude was damaged goods. They knew that before they hired him. And just like what happened with Richard Donner when he made the first Superman, they tried the same trick again with Zack Snyder, where you invite on somebody else big who you eventually want to replace the director with. Because that's what happened with Richard Donner. You realize Richard Donner filmed Superman 1 and 2 simultaneously.
Yeah.
Not one at a time.
I've heard that rumor.
And that was true. That's a fact.
Wow, I didn't know that. I heard it.
He finished Superman. He still had about 80% left on Superman 2. Superman 2 should have come out in 1979. It didn't come out until 1980. And the reason why it took so long is that when he was officially let go from the production, they went and refilmed stuff and shot stuff and add more money to the budget. That kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because that's exactly what happened with Justice League.
And all of these years later, they repeated the exact same mistake.
Because the public doesn't pay attention, so it's easy for them to play games and go, well, it's this person's fault. And people just sort of buy into it. It's like, well, it's Zach's fault because Zach's name's on the movie. Well, the movie they ended up releasing was almost entirely reshot.
Yeah, and the story that was there is gone. The story is gone. It got put back in the long cut that we finally got to watch. Yeah.
Which is the reason why it's pretty much a different movie, because it's telling the same story, but you have the person that actually helped to come up with the plot, who originally shot it with a cast that wanted to be there, versus a cast that had to change a lot of their plans because they, technically they were supposed to be off.
Mustache Candle.
And you had certain producers that were there that weren't good with working with talent. Some people that have been reported to have a bad attitude, and I'm not just talking about Joss Whedon, who worked with Ben Affleck on a different project, and mysteriously Affleck, after working with this person, was ready to go to rehab.
I just want to say something too, because there was one thing I never brought into with the whole. I have huge issues with BVS, but I think that they gave Ben Affleck a really bad rep in that. I thought he was actually one of the saving graces of that film. There's the whole Batman Kills thing, but for what he was given, he worked with it very well. The guy's a hell of an actor.
Did you see the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman?
I've seen the
okay. That was the version that should have been released versus the theatrical version that pretty much doesn't make any sense. Okay? And so if you were to go to Dallas, Texas, and visit the exhibit that they have there, where they have on display many of the costumes and props from the Justice League movie that at least Zack Snyder originally did, he allowed them to also display in Texas his outline for both the second and third movie, which sounds suspiciously, when you read it, certain story beats seem to match what they did in Infinity War and Endgame.
Well, and this is another thing that they lead into besides that awesome mustache. God bless you, Henry Cavill. I don't care what no one says. I think it was a big mistake firing him. I like Henry Cavill. I've heard he's hard to work with, but given what I've
heard the opposite about him. That he's
I've heard stories about him being a dick on different sets, like Mission Impossible. He got into a few things there, and I've also heard he's easy to work with. So I guess it depends on who he's working with, but I think that he fit that perfectly. And what they did to him with replacing him now was just atrocious.
He's not replaced.
He's not replaced.
It's not replaced.
Yeah, the thing with J.J. Abrams has nothing to do with Henry Cavill. It's a whole different thing.
Pay no attention to whatever J.J. does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And on top of that,
part of what
I will tell you this much, even though I'm not the biggest J.J. fan, I will say this. He's a little gun shy working with a lot of these big studios after what happened to him working for Kathleen Kennedy with the Star Wars films. I think personally, and this is really what I've been hearing from insiders that I know, he just wants to do his own thing. He doesn't really want to work with the DC stuff. The person that wants him to do that is the person whose job is on the line. Okay? The head of DC Films, Walter Hamada, wanted JJ to come in when he found out that he was getting that deal. He wanted JJ to come in to save his ass. Is really what it came down to. He needed JJ to save his ass
because he's a shitty producer, and what makes him a shitty producer is he keeps hiring fucking idiots. And if you don't know how to hire people, the right people, then you shouldn't be in charge. That's why I will never be on Team Hamada, because he hires idiots.
And here's the other thing. Remember how I told you I had made reference to Joker, right? when you make a big hit movie, why do studios make movies? Really, why do they release them?
To make money.
That's right. Well, guess
Dollar
what?
bills.
Warner Brothers basically didn't make anything off Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read actually an article about
You
that.
haven't seen stupidity like
botched
that
it.
since 20th Century Fox said, you can keep the merchandising, George Lucas. We have no interest in that.
This is a film that was made rather cheaply with an idea that was not something that was originally they were sold on. And even to a certain extent, even Walter Hamada was kind of weak on it. This film, which is the reason why the deal was done the way that it was. Because that's the kind of negotiation that you do before a movie is made. That doesn't happen after. That film made $1 billion. And Warner Brothers, remember, when that film came out and was a hit, you notice how quickly Warner Brothers goes, we're ready for the sequel? Well, that's the reason why they were ready for the sequel. They made nothing off of it. They got no money.
Oh, Phillips
Idiots.
Schooled them. I give Todd Phillips credit, some big credit there, because he was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, whatever. Does this
Well,
sound
Todd
better?
Phillips-
Yada, yada.
Well, Todd Phillips isn't that interested really to make a sequel. I mean, he's done what he wanted to do. If they're willing to drive the big truck with a lot of cash and plop it down in front of him, he'll give it a thought. But really, he's not that motivated.
Yeah,
Seriously.
neither is
And-
Joaquin Phoenix.
And there's
Yeah.
really no more films for him to steal from.
Well,
So-
I find that I still give him credit because of the fact
He
that
stole from quality films. I give him credit for that too.
Hey, what do they say? If you're gonna steal from the best.
There you go.
And
That's what he did. He stole from De
And here's
Niro.
an argument
I mean, not
to
De
be
Niro,
made. There's a difference between stealing something and not doing it well, and stealing something and pulling it off. So
He did a great job. He did King of Comedy and Taxi Driver and put them into one movie and created his version of Bickle, from Taxi Driver. And I fucking loved it. I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too.
Really did. But
I
I'm looking
really
at
enjoyed
him,
it.
and in no way am I going to pretend that he did not fucking just take two movies and
Yeah.
put them into one.
And again, you've done something when you're able to get the director of both those films to at least be a producer on your movie.
Right?
You know. So,
I know that was
mean,
the big thing too. I was like, well, they're producers too. So is he really stealing? I mean, if
man,
is he really
And
stealing?
to get De Niro to be a character in it.
All right, that's a fair point.
Look, Warner Brothers was filled with so many bad people that when AT&T bought it, the people at Warner Brothers that really were the a-holes found a way of avoiding getting fired in the first group of firings that they had. It's the reason why a majority of the people that got fired were coming out of DC Comics, because that's a division nobody really cared about. Nobody cares about it at all at Warner Brothers. Oh, and newsflash: no studio, no executive cares about comics. None of them.
My goodness,
No,
my
none of
mind
them.
is blown.
None of them read it. None of them. And look, Kevin Feige, as we've said on our show, is not the GOAT. He is a unicorn, because that's how rare it is to find somebody that has ascended that high, that's actually opened a comic book and read it, let alone multiple comics.
And one of the few exceptions to that rule is somebody who's worked with Feige very closely and is involved in Star Wars, which is Jon Favreau. Because Favreau, I've known about his involvement and love for nerd shit since the late 90s.
Oh yeah.
And
He's people forget too. He used to act and stuff. I mean, he still does, but he's
because
more
I've heard him in
known
interviews
acting
talking
than-
about nerd shit, and I found out some of the stuff that he was a collector of, and I'm like, I fucking like this guy. He's fucking cool.
Planet Q's Queen had a good question here. She said, fuck Disney owes Johnny a lot of money still. What are your thoughts on, I'm going to just sub that and say Aquaman being filmed in London? I think that they're filming it there because, like I've been saying for a while, I would love Amber Heard to be off of that project, but the reality is she's probably not. And now
I'm not going to watch it if she's in it. I won't. But
me neither. But I think that they moved it because originally some of that stuff was shot in Australia, and now with the thing going on in Australia with her, they had to switch locations, which indicates to me that they have no plans of taking her off. And I said to a lot of people, and I actually want to get your guys' opinion on this. I said, this feels like her big last break. If this doesn't break $1 billion or make the same as Aquaman 1, I really think she's going to have a hard time getting roles because that'll be directly tied into the hatred people have.
They won't learn. Hollywood doesn't learn. I keep saying this over and over again, and they're not going to learn. They'll find something else to blame it on if it tanks. I predict it's not going to do anywhere near as well because she's in it, but they're going to think it's something else.
And because Warner Brothers doesn't want anything to relate back to what Zack Snyder was doing. When you look at all of the post-Justice League stuff that has happened, all those films, with the exception of Shazam, you've got Wonder Woman 84. Wonder Woman 84 failed because Walter Hamada told Patty Jenkins that basically, hey, guess what? You don't have to follow any formula. You don't have to follow anything that's come by. You can do whatever you want. Okay? Understand, the first Wonder Woman film was based within the Snyderverse. You had people helping her along with the same stunt team that worked on all of Zack Snyder's films, working with that film. That film
all of its failures, for all of its failures, and I know you're going to think this too, Keith, because we all know the reveal of the villain at the end was weak. We all know that the Wonder Woman final battle with the big boss was kind of weak.
Wait, there was a final battle?
Yeah. Oh, okay, you're being sarcastic.
I thought it was just a big monologue.
It was so fucking bad, the reveal. That,
but you know what?
The third act is the worst part of Wonder Woman, but it was such a solid first and second act.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive that third act. I love Wonder Woman. I hated every fucking second of Wonder Woman 84.
There we go.
Everybody was like, everybody on Twitter was like, I kept seeing everybody that I like and respect, and they're like, I saw it, I loved it. I'm like, did we see the same fucking movie? Am I going to be the only one that's going to admit in public that I fucking think it was garbage? I hated every aspect of this. The man-eating.
It got a big pass. Like a lot of the reviewers I watched, they didn't give it a pass, but it was atrocious. Like it was grade school filming. That Cheetah looked terrible. The characterization, the turns didn't make sense. Certain plot elements in it were all over the place.
Yes, that's because
that scene was unnecessary. How do you have two openings to your film? Nobody does that.
That's because Patty Jenkins hates working under. She hates being told what to do. She hates working on a formula. Look. Here's something that you may not know about Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins was the original director.
She likes doggy style, I hear.
She was the original director for Thor 2. Not the version of Thor 2 that came out. The original version of Thor 2. Okay? Originally, Thor 2 was going to have Hela as the main villain.
Ooh, I loved Hela in Ragnarok.
That's right. But see, originally, she was supposed to be in the second movie with Patty Jenkins directing. And eventually, things changed. They changed their minds and decided to use the whole dark elf thing.
Who changed their minds? Who was it, Keith? Tell us. We all want to know.
You don't want to know, because then I have to, But things changed behind the scenes. They ended up. Part of it is the way Marvel Studios plans out their movies. And eventually they just decided to, we're going to use the Dark Elves and save Hela for the next movie. Patty Jenkins didn't like it, and she walked.
She said,
she got
bye-bye.
The only reason why she signed up to do Wonder Woman was that it was something brand new. They were a little less restrictive for making their individual movies than they were with Marvel. So she did have some leeway to do original stuff, which she did, but within reason, okay? The first Wonder Woman works out. So when Justice League basically went off the rails because Joss Whedon lost his mind and the producers were idiots and the executives were idiots trying to get paid, Walter Hamada slides in as the head of DC Entertainment and says,
Hamada Boga.
We just don't need to follow Zack Snyder anymore, so it's open season to whatever you want. So Patty goes, oh, really? Okay, it's open season. So 84 has nothing to do with anything that you'd seen before. That entire movie goes against everything that had been set up on purpose because Patty was allowed to do whatever she wanted.
And see, that's a difference because I've explained this. Like with the Zack scene versus this, you have to have some kind of creative control over these projects. It has to be there. There's an argument to both sides. You can have on the one end too much control where you're actually hurting the film. And then Wonder Woman 84 is a perfect example of giving the directors too much control, because then they just throw in stuff where you don't have that person going, well, Patty, come on, does this really work? And I mean,
every director needs to be managed in some way. Every director.
That's right.
Once again, more freedom was given to Waititi for Ragnarok. And as much fun as Ragnarok was, he took things out that needed to be in there that gave it its gravitas. So the film lacks gravitas. It has zero gravitas. There's no gravity to the drama in the story because it's so chuckly. You know, that's so funny. I love Jeff Goldblum when he says silly things, you know, and there's some great stuff in there. I enjoyed the comedy, but if you don't have the drama in there, that's why I take issue with Waititi, is I think that he misses the significant importance of the dramatic parts. Because comedy, if it's just a comedy, then, I mean, that was the failure of Ghostbusters 2016 too. They wrote a comedy instead of writing what the original film was, which was a sci-fi horror film with comical elements in it.
And here's the thing. I'm going to disprove, because I've had this argument and I haven't even touched a review on this movie because I feel like everybody said the same thing and it'll just be me being an asshole and ranting, which works for me, but I just don't, my brain will explode going into all of the issues. There was this whole thing that it was women. I'm going to say this really loud for all of you fucking idiots to understand. Watch the movie itself. There's bad timing, obvious jokes, and McCarthy being new McCarthy, which is terrible. Any of her new
she
movies,
used to work, and now she's just
now awful. She just gets paid to show up. But I mean, it's this terrible.
Make a queef joke.
Yeah, like it's bad comedy. It's what Hollywood thinks is funny. I recently saw Spiral. Now, it's not going to be winning any Oscars, but I said it was a great film. And
don't say anything because I haven't seen it yet and I want to see it.
No spoilers, but when you get done, go check out my review. Anyway, shameless plug. Anyways, I liked it because Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, their dynamic was good, and Chris Rock being a comedian and then going into drama kind of worked because
Sam has a tendency of elevating whoever he's with and makes them look better.
And like I said, it still has some issues, but there's a difference in it, and you kind of see it. Plus, they tackled the police stuff very tastefully. I didn't think it was possible in 2021, but they actually tackled that storyline without being disrespectful to both sides, because they give you a good person, a good cop, and then the stuff going on in the outside. And I go, okay, cool. You made something for the audience to relate to. The the moral compass, so you're not saying, oh, this is just bad. You know, the way they set it up, it just fell apart a little bit at the ending, but that's when you try to put gore and stuff and mix them all together. They're still working out the formula, but I think if they make a part 2,
well, it's what made Saw good. I mean, I enjoyed the first two Saw films. Not a big fan of the stuff that came after. It becomes tedious after a while to me, but this is a new take, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with this. But going back to the 2016 film, the failure is this. You got to have a solid script to begin with. And Dan Aykroyd wrote a New York phone book thick script for the first Ghostbusters. And it was science fiction, little horror elements, but mostly science fiction. And, you know, the director, and he brought in Harold Ramis, and Harold Ramis goes, oh, we got to make this a lot shorter. So they took all that crap out that was just too much and kept the very heart of it. But the thing is, that was all Dan Aykroyd. What we see in that movie is really Dan Aykroyd, what goes on in his head. And he created the basic map for Harold Ramis to come in and tighten it. And bringing in Bill Murray was genius because, you know, Belushi died. And I don't think Belushi would have pulled off that Venkman character the way Bill did. But it's not written as a comedy. It's not a comedy. What makes it funny is the comical reactions of the cast. They're not doing bits. They're not doing gags. They are actually writing scenes and having the characters react to the shit that's happening in front of them. And that's why there's one scene. There's only one scene in the 2016 film that was worth a shit. It's one fucking scene. The rest of it is garbage. Yeah. One fucking scene, and it's the mannequin scene.
Oh, yeah.
That was written in a style that would have worked in the original.
As a whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have worked as a whole film if they had done that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with these reboots and remakes, is that they see the success of an older one, but when they do the writing, they don't understand. And one of my favorite Korean films, and I got this from YMS, if you ever come across my channel, shout out to you. But he did a comparison between Old Boy, the Korean version versus the American Spike Lee version. And it came apparent to me what actually is the problem with the reboots is while they can still take the concept, they don't understand the context of the scene that they're trying to mimic or the film that they're trying to mimic.
Sounds like everything J.J. Abrams ever made.
Yeah, there's no context. So you can do virtually the same exact scene shot for shot in this modern era, jazz it up. But if you don't understand the context to which the characters are going through, then the scene fails and just seems like a shittier redone version of the same scene because you're lacking what made the scene impactful in the first place. With Old Boy, for instance, there's the scene where they're locked up, right? And he does a compare and contrast. And it's vastly different watching the American version interpret the scene versus the Korean version, because while the acting and the dialogue is virtually the same, the gravity and how they introduce the character in the beginning of the story messes up when you get to the pivotal scene there. So you've already messed up your beginning. We don't care about the character. So when you show this dramatic scene, it doesn't hit because you didn't set anything up from the beginning of the film. And that's the same thing with Ghostbusters. They didn't build the characters for us to care. They just made them goofy, slapstick, quite frankly, annoying.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the female version. The girls here, she's like, oh, the female version. I was like, so they didn't set it up. Look, though, that is a great cast of female actresses. That is potential. And when I saw the casting, I said, could be funny. There's a lot of good, high-powered talent there. But when you don't give them any character, and their character is say a fart joke, say this joke, I am woman. She's
what they should have done was that Paul Feig should have just basically have done with Ghostbusters is basically made a kind of horror version of Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he should have done.
Oh, God.
That would have solved the problem. And what I mean is pursue all the characters the same way he did, like with Bridesmaids, except set within the Ghostbusters universe. That's exactly what he should have done.
Well, that's what they wanted to do. The original crew wanted to bring in new people. They wanted new characters, and they wanted to have handing off the baton. And then I fucking hate that guy. I really do. Bridesmaids was a funny movie, but that dude is a fucking piece of shit. I fucking don't like him. I don't like him because his personal politics get in the way of good storytelling. And I don't fucking like people who do that make decisions based off of their stupid politics. You can sit down and read something by some great fucking writers, and the greatest writers in the world for cinema. You should not know their fucking politics when you read that script.
No, you shouldn't.
If you read High Noon, when you read High Noon and you don't know what it's really about, the subtext, that's a great fucking movie. I don't care what John Wayne and John Ford said about it. They were motivated by their personal politics and their criticism of High Noon. High Noon is a great fucking movie. I don't care if it's about the communist witch hunts.
And I mean, look at you can trace that back to any of the great movies that came out. Even Platoon, right? That is a blatant.
That's a great film until the last line.
Yeah.
And I make fun of it every time I hear it. I drove 1,000 miles to fight an enemy and learn that the enemy was us. And I'm like, really? That's how you want to end this fucking movie? And not say something about the pride of the men you served with? That's the direction you want to go with that? I worked for Dale Dye, the military advisor for that film. He wrote the novelization. He knows my personal feelings on Oliver Stone. I think he's a fucking idiot. He's a commie. And
he knows how to write a good Conan script, though.
No, look, when he was hungry, that guy could fucking write, dude. Oliver Stone could fucking write. But once he made his money, this happens so often. I'm pulling a Keith now. So often that because we promised 60% less hands in the camera. The problem with so many directors, once they become successful, they become their own worst fucking enemies, and they stop being creative. George Lucas is one of those people, and when he was hungry and wasn't sure if the movie was going to get released, that guy made fucking amazing stuff. And then Return of the Jedi. By the time I got to Return of the Jedi, the reason why that film is weaker than the previous two films and weaker than Raiders of the Lost Ark is because the guys that would tell him no started to shut the fuck up.
They'd be like, "Yeah, George, go
yeah,
ahead."
You know that really bad idea we told you about before? We're going to be quiet this time and let you do it. Ewoks.
Hey, don't be hating on
I'm going to hate on them. Don't get me wrong. I fucking like Warwick Davis. I fucking love that guy. But those were supposed to be, it was supposed to be in Kashyyyk, and it was supposed to be fucking Wookiees. And George Lucas went from being a creative genius to be a marketing genius. He gave up on the creativity and focused on the marketing because Fox fucked up and gave him all the merchandising. And once he got more of that control back from Kenner, which took a while, we saw this transition to it's about fucking toys. Star Wars is now about toys. And that dude can market the fuck out of things. All the toys from the prequel trilogy are amazing. But Jar Jar Binks is the center of the story, according to George. His own fucking words, caught on video.
Oh, my God. A T-shirted historian had actually something for you guys. He said, at Pop Culture Minefield, Stone's Conan script was extensively rewritten by...
It was. Milius is a much better writer. He's a great fucking writer. In fact, if you do a Conan film without him while he's still alive, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
John Milius is a hero of mine. I fucking love that guy. And he came up with Spielberg, Coppola, Lucas. He was part of that circle of friends. God, and I personally consider him the best writer of all of them. Milius is absolutely a better director.
I agree. T-shirt, you are right. You are right about John Milius.
Planet Q's Queen, yes, Stephen King. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little backstory, and this was before Stephen King came out and said what he said about Amber Heard. I have been a Stephen King fan since I was a kid, and the first book that I ever read of his that really got me was Salem's Lot. And then I went from that into Pet Sematary, and then, all the classics, Carrie, Cujo, all of those. And I've read every one of Stephen King's works, but you could see it in his book writing after he got to a certain point. And I remember watching a Family Guy skit on it where he's like, yeah, I've got an idea about this plant. Like, it became about that because his writing is just like, he got to a certain point where it's just like anything he pitches, they're like, oh yeah, we'll publish it, whatever, it'll sell millions of copies. And it's kind of the same thing, like, and oh my God, and then you add his politics in that. Steven, get off Twitter.
Yeah, it's just like,
get off Twitter.
One of my first published reviews was about Stephen King's book, It. And what I said at the end of that review was my issue with Stephen King is he can be very clever. He can really write the shit out of a chapter. And there is a chapter like in Pet Sematary that brought me to tears when we think that Gage might have survived. And we hear, that really broke me apart. But my problem is, and this is the suggestion I made at the end of my review, if you're going to read a Stephen King book, read up to the last chapter, close the book, and make up your own ending, because the guy doesn't know how to end a fucking book. It's just like I got 1,000 pages written. I better wrap this shit up.
It was like with the Dark Tower series. Like, I get the gist of what he was trying to say by the end of it, but you wait for years. Like this, if you guys don't know the Dark Tower series, this for me spanned for years. Like literally, I was in high school when I started at like the third book, and I had been following. I went back because they only had the third book to read for some reason, so I went back and read them all, and I got to the ending, and I'm like, oh, the worlds. He literally in that series sets up worlds. Literal worlds that characters go into, and I'm like, this has been great. How is he going to end it? I should have fucking closed it before the end of that chapter. I should have put it down before that ending
because he doesn't know how to fucking end a book. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was Gamera versus a giant kaiju spider, and then the bicycle scene. I'm like. Are you fucking dropping shrooms when you write these things?
Well,
what in the living fuck are you doing? The guy, the only ending I thought was halfway decent was actually I liked the ending of Pet Sematary. Yeah, I thought that was an apt ending.
That always scares the shit out of me because I'm just like, it's a really bleak. It's a really bleak.
It, by the way, is his version of Dracula. He followed the same ideas of how Dracula was written by Bram Stoker, that it was written in journal form. So when you read it, the journal aspects of it were the best parts of it. But I got to point out another thing. Stephen King is a fucking pervert. There's something fucking wrong with that guy sexually. It is a prime example. Do you know how those kids survived the first fight? What they had to do to get out of the sewer? These fucking kids have sex with the girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They cut that out of I remember hearing about that.
Thank God
they cut that out of the new movie.
And it was not in the original miniseries either. Because that's creepy as fuck.
And he goes, yeah, with an R rating, this doesn't need to be in there. Like, they alluded to something, but he didn't get in depth with it. And I go, thank God, because I remember that. And I'm like, oh, crap. They were keeping a lot of his stuff. And I go, please don't do it. Don't do it. And he kind of glazed over it. And I go, oh, okay. Because, people forget that was in the book.
I'm serious, dude. He's creepy as fuck. It's like his inspiration for Carrie. Do you know what that was? He wanted to talk about. For Carrie, it was Dracula. Dracula and It are tied together because it's written in journal form. No, his interest in doing Carrie was to talk about women menstruating.
Oh yeah. I remember hearing something about that when they were
I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Why is that? Why are you even thinking about that as an interesting subject for horror?
Because that was the thing with the blood was supposed to be symbolic of that.
Exactly. But it ended up, it worked. I actually liked it. And I think Tabitha, his wife, had a huge impact on the writing of that story. I think she helped him flesh it out a little bit better.
Maybe bringing him in, because if you let Steven go, he'll just go in some fucking
Yeah, and I cannot stand listening to him talk. I did a series of memes where he was wearing a T-shirt in front of a green screen like Keith's in front of, and I just designed all these different things to put on the T-shirt. Like I had tire tracks and blood, and it says, "I like being hit by vans." Because I'm a fucked up person. I have a fucked up sense of humor. I know it and a bunch of other adjectives. I love girls' periods. Was another one. I just think Stephen King is a fucking idiot in real life. When it comes to his writing, I'd say he's 80% awesome, 20% dumb fuck. And he's nowhere near as good a writer as Stephen Kuntz. And
my girl was just saying he describes underage girls in very inappropriate.
He's creepy. He's very fucking creepy, dude. I'm not kidding. I think there's something fucking wrong with him. I think he's got a fascination with kids, and it's just not normal. But anyway, the sexuality of kids. I'm sorry. And Stephen Kuntz is a better writer, and what's his name? Oh my God, Clive Barker is write circles around Stephen King.
Barker, to me, Barker was so underrated, being in the shadow of all of the other writers that he was grouped in at the time. That was a tough field. I mean, look at all of the horror writers you had at that time. Barker did wind up edging his stuff out. And what's that fantasy book he came out with before he passed? I really liked it. It was like a sweeping fantasy.
I'm sorry, I just got distracted by Generation Productions comments. I'm like, geez, Pop Culture Minefield, hashtag Stephen King is a nonce, passed on. He really is.
Love you.
This is a great example of popular culture versus quality. And Clive Barker is far better a writer of horror. I read his book Weave World back in the 80s, and I consider it the single best fantasy horror story I have ever fucking read. And I walked away from it. There's one scene in it with the sisters, I don't want to describe it, that left me with nightmares. And he writes in a way that reminds me of H.P. Lovecraft, which is unknown things. Cosmic horror. And he writes very similar to H.P. Lovecraft. And I love that about Clive Barker. And really, you don't really get much of his personal politics because he's a good writer. Good writers, you shouldn't be able to tell their personal politics, his social politics or his governmental politics. And I never got that from any of his fucking books.
None. I've never gotten any of that, books, movies, any project he's working on.
Guy is a gay dude, and to my knowledge, he has only written one story back in the 80s and 90s that had a gay character in it. And it was a short story. It was in, I think, Books of Blood Volume 2, where this gay couple go to this place in another country, and they end up being taken into a group of other people that become a giant. One person, they all interact as one creature. And it was really fucking weird. I mean, I read that thing and I'm like, this guy's fucking brilliant. He's, Stephen King is a writer. Kuntz is an author, and Clive Barker's a fucking poet of horror. And
I would definitely agree with that. And on that note, I'm going to start wrapping up because I got pizza and my girl, and she's looking at me like this is our time.
Get off of there. Stop talking to those guys and focus on me.
She
Keith
just
and I-
said
Keith
from the
and I
other
both-
room. She just said from the other room. See, he gets it.
Well, I have a woman too that's sitting right next to me, and there are times when I have to pay attention to her.
If you don't know, I actually do movie
Not that I have
reviews.
to, I want to.
I do
I want
movie
to. I want to.
reviews.
Hold on. I want to pay attention to her. Okay, happy now. Okay.
Yes.
She's a nice lady. She's a very nice lady.
I do movie reviews with my significant other, so that's why we're gonna both do the Cruella together. And it's funny because she's not like us; she doesn't follow the entertainment. So when she gives something that's very forward and to the point, it's kind of like being the average normie perspective, and it's hilarious the things she says. So it's always good to have that balance and to keep the balance in this house. So I'm not sleeping on the couch. I'm gonna say, what do you guys got coming up for soon?
Exactly. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, Keith and I just had a talk about this yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very familiar. What do we have coming up?
I didn't
We're
think that was
supposed
the question
to.
I was going to get you on.
Well, we're supposed to have Gary on this week, and I need to put a phone call into him to make sure that he's going to be able to show up on TGIF.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing the link to our channel with you if you want to put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And
Do that.
there we go. There we go. It's youtube.com/C/pop culture minefield. And Keith and I, we're supposed to do something on Wednesday on Fat Steven's channel, which is the shows that made us. We talk about the history. Last week, we didn't really talk that much. We actually had Chuck Dixon on. And we did talk a little bit, but we focused on what he and Frank are doing, this new Arctoons comic book. But this coming Wednesday, I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about, but it'll be fun. We talk on Fat Steven's channel about TV shows, cartoons, etc., that we grew up on, that we are still in love with to this day. And for many of us, Johnny Quest is the one, because a lot of us are close to our 50s. So we all grew up with Johnny Cash. Keith and I are in our
Quest.
Yeah.
But you know, also on Fat Steven's channel, I have a show called Keith Chimes In, and we've been focusing
on Mondays.
On Mondays. In fact, I was just doing that show before I came here. So it's 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. We have been focusing on the 90s series Babylon 5, which is now on HBO Max. And,
Yes, I know. I've been watching it.
if you want a show that is just not preaching at you and is just strictly a well-told story, Babylon 5 is your show. Check it out. If you have HBO Max, all the better. So
Yeah, and I love the show, but I bowed out of that show that you and Steven do, because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to add anything to the conversation, and I love it when you're talking about it. I'm just going to focus on the occasional stuff, because I was a bigger Star Trek Next Generation fan at the time. I've come back and watched more of Babylon 5, and I'm rediscovering just how much fun it is. So, but anyway, that's on Mondays. Wednesdays, we're on Fat Steven's channel. So that's two Fat Stevens shows that we do. And on Wednesday, we do the shows that make us. Both of them are at 6 o'clock, right? Wait, what time is the Monday one? No, it's at 2 o'clock Central Time.
Yeah. Well, the Monday show with me, that's at 3 o'clock Central.
3 o'clock Central
4
Time.
o'clock.
And then Wednesday is 6 o'clock Central Time. And then on Friday at 2 o'clock Central Time, we do TGIF. We do not want to interfere with what's going on with Friday Night Tights. We want to build our own audience and not because we share a lot of the same people, and we want those people to watch our show, so we start at 2 o'clock. Oh,
hi, Force of Light.
Hi.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I had them actually on to do an interview about their channel a while ago. So,
well, I'm sure it was a lot better than ours. So.
No,
yeah,
it's just great fun. I would love
you
to
have
have
me
you guys
on.
back on.
Look, bro, Zod, if you get me on your show, all you're going to get is a series of fuck bombs.
I know. I was going to be like, yeah, this is not going to be monetized. It was like, but that's my channel. If you guys watch my late night talks, I go into that fully knowing nothing we say will ever be monetized on that stream. I believe in letting you guys talk the way you want to because, this is us, and I hate putting on a facade for the camera. Like,
well, I just don't think. I have a very weird filter. And the Force of Light had me on to talk about Blade Runner, and I dropped a couple of F-bombs, and I kept apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hate it. It's just I don't know how to watch my mouth anymore. The Army destroyed me. The Army wrecked me, man. I used to be a Catholic altar boy, and then the Army turned me into this foul-mouthed beast.
Hey, Planet Q's Queen brought up a great point. We literally did a stream for about an hour and a half to 2 hours for our late night talks, all on penis, because it was about John Browerman and that whole situation. And
I don't even know what's going on with him. What the freak happened with that dude?
I found it, I said, out of the two of them that are being targeted, it's sad that Browerman is actually, what he did was probably less than what the other guy from Doctor Who did, because he full on tried to sexually assault a bunch of women on set and things like that, harassing. And
who?
It was Noel. I got to go back to
Noel Clark.
Yeah, Noel Clark.
And yeah, Noel Clark, Doctor Who.
Yep, he was caught in. There's texts and like hard evidence, like a lot of stuff he said was.
Wow. Rose's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you had John Bowerman just putting his dick on cars. So I'm like, which is the? I mean, it's weird. I wouldn't do it. I would be weirded out by someone.
The guy who played Rory.
But
No.
Oh, the black dude. The black dude.
Yes. Yes.
Oh shit.
Yeah. He had a.
I just watched a series with him.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
He's in a lot of trouble, but it felt like to shift it off of him, they said, well, John Bowerman was just putting his penis everywhere. So it's this whole big thing. And I'm not saying neither of them were right, but the incidents they were talking about was that Bowerman's thing. He already came out. They had dealt with it in like 2008. He had made a statement. He had apologized, whatever else, hadn't pulled his thing out since then.
Yes.
Anywhere, it was like, okay, it was a gag. It's done and over with. These other events had been continuously happening. So you had one person.
Penis gag? Is that what you just said? Penis gag?
Yeah. I mean, I just picture on set. Look, I really am a huge fan of Bowerman. I met him at a con. He's a very nice guy, very cool to his fans. Loves the fans. And so seemed pretty down to earth guy. Minus that, but it's like, could you picture that guy? And then we had jokes about Arrow and stuff like that. And they're like, Bowerman, don't pull that out of your quiver. But anyway.
Wow. Well, this is how little I pay attention to news. I was unaware of that. Wow. But anyway, let's wrap this up. I know you want to get going. Pizza.
Yep. So anyways, for myself, Late Night Talks is going to be happening. Don't miss the Wednesday show with Mad Squirrel and Father Zod. Also, this Saturday will be Fandom Zone News with me, Father Zod, and my co-host who popped in here, Mr. Pop Culture PB. He'll be on there. My better half or the worst half, whichever you want to
refer to Keith. It's the way I refer to Keith. He's the better half.
Actually, we both balance each other out, so we're going to be doing that. I'm going to have a couple reviews coming out because all of you guys seem to love my reviews now. I'm gone back through and watched them, so I got one coming out for Castlevania Season 4. It's overrated, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to be doing one on what was the other one I was doing? Oh, on Lars von Trier, Antichrist, part of my series on his films. and I'm going to be doing a review on Army of the Dead. So everybody check that out. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
We were glad to do it.
You guys are busy. So, and as always, remember the only rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before Zod.
The darkness before we never crossed